Spirituality has been a central aspect of the human experience since the dawn of civilization. It has inspired great works of art, fueled social movements, and shaped the course of history. Yet despite its profound influence on our lives, spirituality remains a complex and often misunderstood phenomenon. At its core, spirituality is a neutral force, neither inherently good nor evil. Like any tool or technology, it can be used for either positive or negative ends, depending on the intentions and actions of those who wield it. This dual nature of spirituality is reflected in the wisdom traditions of the world, from the ancient mystery schools of Egypt and Greece to the shamanic practices of indigenous cultures. In the Hermetic tradition, this duality is expressed through the principle of polarity, which states that everything in the universe has its opposite. Light and darkness, good and evil, masculine and feminine, these are all manifestations of the fundamental polarity that underlies all of creation. The Kybalion, a Hermetic text published in 1908, states, "Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled." This principle of polarity is key to understanding the dual nature of spirituality. Just as a coin has two sides, spirituality has the potential for both light and darkness, creation and destruction, healing and harm. Before I dive deeper into the dual nature of spirituality, give us a like and subscribe. It helps our channel, and in turn, we help you grow in soul force. Now, let's move on to the next section. Throughout history, there have been countless examples of individuals and groups who have misused spiritual power for selfish and destructive ends. From the corrupt priesthoods of ancient civilizations to the cult leaders of modern times, the abuse of spiritual authority has caused immense suffering and harm. One of the most notorious examples of this in recent history is the case of Jim Jones, the charismatic leader of the People's Temple cult. Jones used his spiritual authority to manipulate and control his followers, ultimately leading them to a mass suicide in 1978 that claimed the lives of over 900 people. In his sermons, Jones often spoke of the power of faith to overcome all obstacles, including death itself. He convinced his followers that they were part of a chosen people, destined to create a utopian society on earth. Yet, behind closed doors, Jones was a ruthless and abusive leader who used fear and intimidation to maintain his power. The case of Jim Jones is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked spiritual authority and the importance of critical thinking and discernment in spiritual matters. It is all too easy for charismatic leaders to exploit the trust and vulnerability of their followers, leading them down a path of destruction. Yet, the misuse of spiritual power is not limited to cult leaders and corrupt priests. It can also manifest in more subtle ways, such as the commercialization of spirituality and the use of spiritual practices for personal gain. In recent years, there has been a growing trend of spiritual entrepreneurship, where individuals use spiritual language and practices to market themselves and their products. From manifestation coaches to crystal healing influencers, the spiritual marketplace has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. While there is nothing inherently wrong with offering spiritual services or products, there is a danger of spirituality becoming just another commodity to be bought and sold. When spirituality is reduced to a transaction, it loses its transformative power and becomes just another tool for personal gain. Comment below on how you'll be wary and cautious of exploitative spiritual aims and groups. The misuse of spiritual power is a reflection of the eternal battle between light and darkness that lies at the heart of the human experience. This battle is not only external but also internal, as each of us must choose whether to align ourselves with the forces of creation or destruction. In the Zoroastrian tradition of ancient Persia, this battle is personified by the twin deities of Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu. Ahura Mazda represents the forces of light, truth, and goodness, while Angra Mainyu represents the forces of darkness, falsehood, and evil. The Zoroastrian scriptures, known as the Avesta, describe this battle as a cosmic struggle between the forces of order and chaos, with humanity caught in the middle. Each individual must choose whether to align themselves with the forces of light or darkness, and their choices have consequences not only for themselves but for the entire world. This idea of a cosmic battle between good and evil is found in many other wisdom traditions as well. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, it is represented by the battle between God and Satan, while in the Islamic tradition, it is the battle between the forces of Allah and the forces of Shaitan. Yet, while these traditions may use different language and imagery to describe this battle, they all point to the same fundamental truth, that the choices we make in our spiritual lives have profound consequences for ourselves and the world around us. When we align ourselves with the forces of light, we become channels for healing, compassion, and transformation. We become a force for good in the world, working to create a more just and harmonious society. But when we align ourselves with the forces of darkness, we become agents of destruction and suffering. We become trapped in cycles of greed, hatred, and delusion, causing harm to ourselves and others. The key to navigating this battle is to cultivate discernment, self-awareness, and humility. We must be willing to look honestly at our motivations and actions and to take responsibility for the consequences of our choices. The path of the spiritual warrior is one of courage, compassion, and service. It is a path that requires us to confront the darkness within ourselves and the world around us, and to work tirelessly to transform that darkness into light. In the Buddhist tradition, the spiritual warrior is known as the Bodhisattva, a being who has dedicated their life to the liberation of all sentient beings from suffering. The Bodhisattva vow, which is taken by many Buddhist practitioners, states, "Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it." This vow encapsulates the essence of the spiritual warrior's path. It is a path of selfless service, of putting the needs of others before one's desires and attachments. It is a path of constant learning and growth, of continually deepening one's understanding of the nature of reality. To walk this path requires great courage and perseverance. It means being willing to face one's shadows and limitations and to work tirelessly to transform them. It means being willing to stand up against injustice and oppression, even in the face of great adversity. Yet, the rewards of walking this path are immeasurable. By aligning ourselves with the forces of light and working for the benefit of all beings, we tap into a source of boundless energy and inspiration. We become a force for healing and transformation in the world, and we discover a sense of purpose and meaning that goes beyond our individual lives. In the words of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most sacred texts of Hinduism, "Better is one's dharma, though imperfectly performed, than the dharma of another well performed. Better is death in the doing of one's dharma. The dharma of another is fraught with peril. This passage reminds us that the path of the spiritual warrior is not about perfection, but about authenticity and integrity. It is about staying true to our unique calling and purpose, even in the face of challenges and setbacks. Ultimately, the path of the spiritual warrior is a path of love and service. It is a path that challenges us to be our best selves, to live with compassion and courage, and to work tirelessly for the benefit of all beings. As we navigate the complexities of the spiritual path, let us remember the words of the great spiritual teachers who have come before us. Let us draw strength and inspiration from their example, and let us dedicate ourselves to the great work of transforming ourselves and the world around us. For in the end, the battle between light and darkness is not a battle that can be won or lost, but a dance that we are all called to participate in. By aligning ourselves with the forces of light and working for the benefit of all beings, we become co-creators of a more just and harmonious world, one heart and one mind at a time.